Yeah, so welcome to the presentation about UX design. I've been working on this presentation for the last week, so it's a little bit rough, but bear with me. Yeah, so my name's Jason. I've been doing UX stuff for the past 10 years, trying to figure out what is UX design, why is it important, all that kind of stuff, trying to answer those questions. I have to hold the mic closer to my mouth. Okay, so yeah, welcome to the UX presentation I'm about to give. We have lots of fun images, unicorns, some explosions, and most importantly, you won't believe these 10 UX hacks that tripled our productivity. Brought to you by Pronto. Woo! Okay, so during my job as a UX designer, we do workshops. The first slide of my workshop is always introduction, so I'm just going to do myself. I think it's going to be a bit difficult to do all of you guys as well. My name is Jason. In my free time, I like to go surfing. Before I started at Pronto, I worked here at Mendix, so I know a couple of people, like Jan. Oh, I broke my presentation. See, work at Mendix, awesome. My position at Pronto involves coming up with designs, solutions, and then ultimately creating blueprints. Yeah, and my expectations of this workshop is afterwards that everyone's going to be an awesome UX designer and understand why UX is really important. So what are we going to do today? Answer these questions. What is user experience? What is user experience design? What is design thinking? Also something I think is really important in the UX process. Why good user experience is important. How user experience fits in app development process. And to finish it off, some hacks to make your life a little bit easier. Try to figure out simple ways to just have better UX in apps. So start off with, we have the UX foundation. So the foundation is sort of that everyone has the same understanding of what user experience is. It's quite a big term, and everyone uses it slightly differently. So we're going to start at the foundation so that everyone knows what is user experience and what is user experience design. So yeah, laying down the foundation, that's what I just said. What is an experience? The reality is as perceived by an individual. I'd like to sort of stand still by this because it's not the reality, but it's the perception of reality. So what does that actually mean? That means this. I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen this optical illusion, but the reality is there are no dots, but you guys are probably perceiving a lot of dots. That's what user experience is about. It's not about the reality, but the perception of reality. So the reality as experienced by an individual. And what is UX design? The design process is consciously creating that which can be perceived. So not just creating a reality, but the perception of that reality. The experience. So I hope you guys blown your mind already about just getting started about UX design. Yeah, so you guys probably want an example of what is an experience, what is a designed experience. Something that's not screen related is always good because it sort of gets you out of that kind of mental model. Food, everyone loves food. We have some ice cream, some nachos. They're both pretty good experiences. They're both completely different, but they are taste related. When these were designed, someone consciously had to think about what is the taste. Oh, someone's trying to get in. You go save him, Jan. So yeah, someone consciously had to choose the taste, the texture, the smell, the temperature of the food, sort of make sure that experience is perfect. These are the human senses. There are 5 major human senses, I think. We have taste, we have smell, we have touch, we have hearing, and we have visual, seeing stuff. I don't know, what do you call it? Vision? Yeah, so vision is the best of our senses. Got this cool quote here, vision beats all other senses because it's how we've always apprehended major threats, food supplies, and reproductive opportunities. So sort of we've evolved to be good at seeing stuff. So it's not really a coincidence that most of our interfaces are visual, which I hope also blew your mind again. So we're going to see how strong is this superpower of ours, our visual skills. So I have this fun little video. I hope the speakers will work, and otherwise we'll see. There's no sound, John.
Oh, you want sound?
Nah, it's okay. You just have to count the passes of the white team. Oh, it froze. Oh, no, it didn't.
User-related issue.
13. But did you guys see the moonwalking bear? So yeah, that's I think it's an ad for car safety. Yeah. So why are we so good at seeing stuff yet we miss that beer? This is some time for some wounding pseudoscience. I always like having some pseudoscience in there, makes it relatable. I'm not sure if there's any ladies out there, but this will probably be relatable for them. Once a month, maybe more, I walk to the kitchen, to the fridge, and I say to my girlfriend, I say, babe, where's the cheese? And then she replies, it's right in front of you. And I say, yeah, there it is, I found it. And she says, yeah, did you just have a man's look? So that's what she calls me when I'm trying to find something, and it's right in front of me. So yeah, I can't help it, I'm a man. And this is where the pseudoscience comes in. See, this is me. And yeah, we men evolved to go hunting, supposedly, and so we need to be able to look far and focus on a single point. Whereas ladies, this is you guys. Yeah, supposedly you guys evolved to pick berries and have a wide overview of stuff. So. Yeah, I'm sorry. So what does this have to do with UX design? Yeah, we know that humans are visually oriented people. We're really good at some stuff and we're completely rubbish at other stuff. So when creating an experience for a user, we should leverage what they are good at and avoid what they are bad at. So that means things that we're good at, do more of that. Things that we're bad at, do less of that. So yeah, can we have an example of that? That's you guys, the audience. This is the interactive part. This is going to be fun. Which store would you rather visit? Store A with the 2 flavors or store B with 19 flavors? So for store A, raise your hand. 1, 2, a couple. And who wants to go to store B? Everyone wants to go to store B. That's interesting. Which store sells more ice cream? Okay, raise your hands for store A. A couple more people think that this is... And who thinks store B sells more ice cream? Yeah, I'm sorry guys, store A sells more ice cream. Why is that? This is known as choice paralysis. That's something that happens in humans. And that's pretty much says, I'm content with my choice, but I know there's a high probability that the choice I made is not the best choice. So you guys are saying, yeah, but I know my ice cream. I know exactly what I want to get when I get in there. So I have another example. This is from a couple of weeks ago. My mom said, I need a new TV. So I went to Coolblue. It said 55-inch, probably what you want. And this is the hits I got. They're all 55-inch, they're all 4K, and they're all 50 hertz. The only difference is the price and the brand. So there's like a Sony up there and a Sony. I was like, this is too confusing. I said, Mom, I'll do it tomorrow. Still haven't done it, but this is what choice paralysis is. I'm not sure if you guys are into Netflix. I've seen The Good Place. This is Chidi. This is one of his character traits is he can't make any choices, and that sort of annoys everyone else. So yeah, people are bad at a lot of things, and a good UX designer understands what users are good at and what they're bad at. All these things are known as cognitive biases, and if you're bored tomorrow at work, go to Wikipedia, read all of them, try to figure out which ones you think is interesting and which one isn't. There was one I saw which was cool, which I thought the bias blind spot, the tendency to see oneself as less biased than other people, or to be able to identify more cognitive biases in others than in oneself. So yeah, I think I might have that. Yeah, so I love talking about the psychology of UX, and I can do it all night, but Jan said I only have an hour, so I'll give you guys some tips. If you like this stuff, read this book. This is pretty much one of the Bibles of UX design, and this one, Don't Make Me Think. This is pretty much the guy that created the whole UX scene, I think. And if you guys are lazy like me, go onto Netflix, watch this movie. It's pretty cool. It's also from Dan Ariely. If you go back, then no, it's not his book. So the UX process. I'm going to talk a little bit about the process of how you sort of figure out what a good UX is. But first, we have a cool story. So this is once upon a time in Africa. It's an interactive adventure. So you guys get to participate, especially the people in the front row. So hope you guys don't get too nervous. Okay, so the story goes. A couple of years ago, some engineering students, they were tasked to go to Africa to solve some problems. The problem that they were tasked to solve was make villages in Africa more fire resistant, which seems like quite an easy task. Probably already thinking of some solutions, which is good because that's the first interactive section of our presentation. So can anyone think of a way to make villages in Africa more fire resistant? Raise your hand, or I'm going to start choosing people. Yeah. Well, less wood. So less wood. That's already a great idea. Do we have any more ideas?
Less fire.
Less fire? Less fire and less wood. Jan? Also?
Only outdoor fires.
Only outdoor fires.
Spaced more apart.
Spaced more apart.
Stone buildings.
Stone buildings. So we've been doing this for less than a minute, and we already have 5 awesome solutions of how to make villages in Africa more fire resistant. So that's good. If we keep doing this for another hour, we're going to have a whole bunch of solutions, which is cool. One of the groups, they said, you know what, I'm going to go out and I'm going to interview some of these users, figure out like, what are they doing to make all these fires, and see if we can sort of stop it that way. So one of them said, I'm scared of losing important documents to fire, which is quite an interesting insight. Fires are bad, documents are good, want to keep more documents. Yeah, so then all of a sudden they said, well, it's not really the fire that they're scared of losing important documents. So that sort of changed the question from fire prevention to document preservation, which is quite an interesting insight to have. So can we think of some other stuff some solutions for the problem of document preservation? Store it in the cloud. Is this an IT meetup, or? Do we have some more solutions for document preservation?
Put it in a safe.
Put it in a safe. No documents.
Stone tablets.
Stone tablets. So that's a pretty intense one. Okay, so yeah, spent 5 minutes on this, trying to solve this problem, come up with some good solutions. So let's see the solution they had. They got a car, they got a scanner, they scanned the documents, and guess where they put them? In the cloud. So yeah, this is an example of design thinking. And it's really important to talk to your users because you really want to solve the key problem that they're facing and not the problems you thought that they were facing. And this is also really important, is that design thinking is not about colors or adding something. You can't say, we've created this application, it doesn't really solve a problem, can you design think it or something? that doesn't work. It's design thinking is not about adding colors after the application's been built, but design thinking is creating something that solves the user's problems. This is something that you're going to see a couple more times. So during my workshops that I give, we have this slide, which is why is good UX important. Always good for people to understand why good UX is good for us. And I have this fun little example, which is a TV remote. I'm not sure if you guys have one of these at home with all these buttons, and half of the buttons you don't use. Well, a couple of students, they had this. They went to their grandma's house. They wanted to make it more user-friendly. So they got some duct tape. They said, "Grandma, which buttons do you not use? We're going to tape them off." So they did that, and then after a month, they came back and she said, "Can you use your TV remote?" And she said, "Yeah, it functions fine. I'm not missing anything." And this is often what a lot of apps look like. They want to be able to do everything, so the developer says, "We're just going to chuck everything on the screen. Tick that box, awesome." And then the user opens it and he says, "Well, I can do everything, but it's not really super handy, so then we're going to tape it off." And then eventually, the UX designer comes along and says, "Look, this is what we actually need. We're going to get rid of all the buttons, or hide them somewhere else. Or just have two remotes. Just have your regular remote and then put this one in your cupboard, and then when you get a new TV or something, you can use it." So why is good UX important? 3 main things. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but 3 main things is intuitive usage, which is less frustration, which is always good. Less user errors, which, yeah, no errors means saving some money. It's always good for businesses. And making data understandable. This is a bit of a weird one, but I've got some cool examples, so it should be good. Intuitive usage, we've already seen that one. It's like this remote. And this one is also pretty easy to use. It's a gate, a lock on a gate. I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen it, but I'm pretty sure most of you guys will be able to open it. And intuitive usage is something that you see in businesses. We did some work for a call center a couple of while ago. They're all really happy, as you can see. It took them 2 weeks to get up to speed. So they'd have vacation workers, they'd work there for the summer vacation, that's about 2 months, and it'll take them 2 weeks of those 2 months to get up to speed. We made a new application and we got that up to 2 hours. So that saved that business quite a lot of money, which is good, and the users are happier, which is more important. Less errors. I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen these things. Back in the old day, trying to hook up your SNES to your TV. We used to have a TV and the back of these didn't have colors, so it was also sort of Russian roulette trying to figure out how it works. This is a bad example. This one's a little bit better. You can't put it in the wrong way. And then the best example is the power sockets. You can't like wrongly put in a power socket and destroy your deep fryer or your radio or your PlayStation or whatever. So make stuff in a way that you can't use it wrongly. And then the last example is make data understandable. This is also a bit weird one, but I don't know, I think it's cool. These are, I'm not sure if you can read them, they're pretty small, but these are the distances between Dutch cities in kilometers. So yeah, interesting stuff. You can see that Rotterdam to Breda is 50 kilometers. I'm not sure if anyone's here from Breda, but that would be cool. Shout out to Breda people. I'm not from Breda, but my company is. So. Yeah, so this data is a bit weird, hard to read, so we can put some UX on it, make it a little bit easier to understand, save some space, and then you can already see that Rotterdam to The Hague is only 27 Ks, so that's helpful. Still quite not super easy to read. Chuck some more colors in there, and then it's really easy to read. The furthest away is Maastricht to Groningen, 336 Ks away. So this is what you can do with UX. You can make data understandable, see patterns that were invisible before, and for businesses this can be really important. So the UX process. How does the UX design fit into the app development process? I'm thinking all of you guys are app developers, or some of you guys might be UX or designers. So analogies, I always like analogies. It gives people sort of a frame of reference for people that aren't app developers, why stuff is important. I always say building an app is a lot like building a house. You always start with an idea. You want a house, maybe you want a house on the beach, maybe you want a 2-story house, some simple idea. Then you get some designs, usually pay someone that can actually draw it to make some really nice drawings of what your house could look like. Some prototypes to try to see if it fits all the requirements and if the space is filled up how you would like it to be. Then finally you get those distilled into a blueprint. Then you build the house, and then you get someone to paint the inside, make the inside look pretty. So this is pretty much your flow: idea, design, blueprints, build, and then do some interior design. Build, this is you guys build the apps. So how does this relate to app design? You start off with an idea. A client wants to solve problem X. I'm not sure if you guys have ever read the napkin book, where they say you should be able to fit your concept on a napkin, but always interesting. Then you get to designs. For us, this is like single-page mock-ups. This is something I'll do for a company. They say we want to have some overview of some screen. I'll make a single page. This is what it's going to look and feel like, but not really thinking about how it works, what the stuff, how it works when you click on stuff and what happens behind it. Then we get a step further, which is your prototype. This is often a single page mock-ups, or as you can see, some animation of how you can go through certain stuff. Also trying to just get a sense of, is this where we're going? Is this where we want to head towards? Once the product owner said, yes, this is what we want, we start making all the pages. Do we do that? No, these are still blueprints. Did I miss one? We're here, and now we're here, blueprints. Yeah. So we make the blueprints, and this is sort of a flow of the whole application, trying to figure out, do we tick all the boxes? Can I use it? Do all the stuff that's required of them? Once that's done, then all the talented people start building nice applications with a super nice domain model over there. And then after that's all done, then the UX designer comes back, does some SAS or CSS, and then implements design and makes everything look top-notch and pretty. So as you can see, UX design is not just adding colors after an application has been built. UX design is creating something that solves the user's problems. And these are highlighted: UX, UX, UX. Idea is mostly not UX. Building is also not really UX design, but there are some UX choices you can make as a builder. The way you build a page can affect how fast something loads, which is also really important for the UX. So now for some UX hacks. Get you guys up to speed, make your apps beautiful tomorrow. This is an app builder, a business developer. He's super happy. He says stuff like, I love to build apps. He also says other stuff. He says, to save space, we should put enumerations in drop-downs. Yeah, I'm not sure what I think about that. But let's see, this is an example. I would like to pay via select a method. You guys all know what enumerations are? Like lists of stuff that's already predetermined, just lists. Yeah, I would like to pay via select a method. Because it's a predetermined list, it could also be a radio button. This way the user has more of an idea what he can get, what's waiting on him. If you're on mobile, then you can make something really fun looking like this. Get some logos in there, have a nice call to action button down there. And then you guys can get some of these takeaways. If it's less than 7 options, use radio buttons. I think I have to send this PowerPoint to you guys afterwards as well. That'll be really fun. You can share it with your colleagues. Yeah, so that's the guy again. Less clicks is a better user experience. I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard that, but I'm not sure what I think about that either. Yeah, so going back to payment stuff, this is the checkout for bol.com. It's a Dutch website, web shop. Yeah, and then you fill in your details, your address, your details, payment stuff. We can do that in one click. We can have just a huge page, all the stuff in it. But it's always important to ask, what is the user trying to achieve? And can we increase usability by reducing noise? This is a slide, you're probably going to see some more come back, because this is pretty much the key of what user experience designers is always asking. What is the user trying to achieve? And can we increase usability by reducing noise? So how does Bol do it? They have this thing for an address. They actually don't let you put in an address. You have to like pre-select make an address and then you just click it. So if you have a new address, you get this little pop-up. For another app of ours, for Friesland Campina, we created more clicks. We started with 1 click, and then by the end of the development of the app, we had about 11 clicks for the same flow. And we increased usability, but we had more clicks. So the app is about when you're sick, you want to register that you're sick, and with the new privacy stuff, you can't just call up anymore. So yeah, a bit difficult, but okay. HR needs correct details. So that's one of the stakeholders. You guys probably have to deal with stakeholders all the time, so you know how that goes. And users need to register that they're ill, but they're also really lazy, so they want the least amount of energy to do it. And they're also sick at the same time. So it's like double hard for them. So the app we created was this one. It's on your phone. We did some really fun user testing where we got people in a dark room and they had to lie down and try to do it with just one hand. That's why the buttons are so big. And also your thumb. I'm not sure if you guys have ever realized, but your thumb is like how most people use their phone. So that's why I'm feeling ill. It's down there at the bottom, big button. All the information is pre-filled. So each question is one screen. If you change your phone number or whatever, then you can put it in here, and otherwise it's next. It's just like next, going through the application as fast as you can. My location, I'm home, now I'm staying at my girlfriend's, change location, next. So yeah, that's interesting to see how you can go from more clicks, it can be more usability, which I think is fun. So this is the takeaway slide. Less noise is better than less clicks. Okay, so here's this guy again. Scrolling is bad. I hear this one at least once a week. The question behind scrolling is bad is we don't want to hide important information, which I don't think people want to hide important information, so that's good. The question you should ask yourself, what is the user trying to achieve? And can we increase usability by reducing noise? If you see a dashboard like this, you probably don't have everything, but you have a lot of stuff. The user can scroll, everyone knows how to scroll, so I just always say people can just scroll. And if it's really important, make a little card up the top. And if it's really important, you can even make it up there in the top bar. Okay, this one's gonna cause some troubles for me. Default Mendix elements always have good UX. So we're gonna have a look at some of these default Mendix elements that I see in a lot of pages. Yeah, I can hear people in the audience getting uncomfortable. Yeah, so this is one of those elements. And one of the laws of UX, this is a really great site, by the way. I think it's called lawsofux.com, is elements tend to be perceived into groups if they are sharing an area with a clearly defined boundary, which translated means elements can affect stuff when it's close to the stuff. Elements can affect it, should be close to it. That's what I wrote down. Yeah, so let's see how all these boundaries work. Search affects the whole area. New inserts one like in between. And then we have these two buttons, new, edit and delete, which affect a selected area itself. And then I put this note to self, solve this with next issue, to be continued. So we're going to go on to the next issue, which is avoid using tables at all costs. So I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard that, if you guys still use tables, but it's okay to use tables. But first, why are tables bad? A long time ago, like in the beginning ages of the internet, we used to make really nice designs in Photoshop. There were no mobile phones, things did not need to be responsive, and we would make it like this, and then we'd get our slicing tool and slice it all up into little blocks. And that's how sites were made. They weren't responsive, and due to this way of working, tables were not used the way they should be used. And that's why a lot of people say, don't use table, avoid using tables. So that begs the question, when should you use tables? It's pretty easy. When you're making a table, you should use tables. And then how does it look like in Mendix? It's like this. You get a nice list view, put a table in there with your data, and then up top, get all your headers in there. So the takeaway of that is use a table when making a table. I like that rule. It's a simple rule. I think everyone can remember that one tomorrow. Overview. We need more overview. I'm not sure if you guys hear this one often. A lot of people want more overview. There's not enough overview in this world. What is overview? Yes, overview can mean a lot of things. To some people it means seeing the right information at the right time. So a user story would look a little bit like this. I would like to know when my production line is behind schedule. This is the product owner, it's not the user that says that, but... And this could be a solution, just have a little pop-up. So that way you have clarity and you have overview of the things that you want to know at that time. Another thing could be being able to compare information. That's also overview. It's a different kind of overview. And you could say, I would like to know if production line A is going to catch up to production line B. Not sure if you guys are into MotoGP, but this is what that looks like. And MotoGP, it's like a little tiny section in the screen. Still creates that overview, but it's not a big list where you have to manually compare. And that's what a lot of people say is, I want overview, I want these big lists. And you have to ask them, like, what are you trying to distill out of these lists? And can we help you with that? Can we make a little box in the corner that actually says what you're trying to figure out? Yeah, there it is again, the same slide. What is the user trying to achieve? Can we increase usability by reducing noise? Admin screens don't need UX. This is a pretty intense one. I see a lot of people, they just chuck in a screen, some master data stuff, and just leave it for what it is. And then I got this quote off of a user a couple of days ago. They say, about once a year, we hire a new worker. We need to change some settings in the admin panel. So that's pretty scary for them because there are buttons and we don't dare press them because we don't know what they do. Yeah, so I mocked up this page. I'm not sure if you can see it from there, but it's okay. This is sort of what one of those pages look like. One of the first things that I always want to try to add to one of these admin pages is a title, a header. Sort of gives context to what are we looking at. The button that I pressed, did it actually go to the page that I wanted it to go to? Some of these buttons, new, edit, delete, export, they're all really vague. So I'm going to try to fix that. So new, what are we creating? We're creating a new internal user. So up there we have internal users. We can put the button up there. We also change it from new to create new user. In English they always say try to use a, what's a verb word?
A verb.
A verb. Try to use a verb when creating buttons. Just makes it gives you a little bit more context. Edit. What are we editing? We're editing one of these rows, so we might as well put that button over there. Delete. What are we deleting? Oh, one of these users as well, so we can put that in there. You can also say, well, we're not really deleting the stuff that often. We might as well put that in edit, and when you click edit, it opens like a pop-up or something. But yeah, for this example, we put it there. Export. What are we exporting? This is one of those buttons that people don't really know what's happening when you click it, so no one clicks it. For this example, I said, well, you just export the whole list as an Excel. So we put it up there. It's sort of like internal users. What are you exporting? You're exporting all users to Excel, so it's sort of up above everything. Trying to get that visual hierarchy in there. Email. Also a button, I'm not quite sure what it does, but I think it's like it contacts the user. So we put it in there, contact user. So easy. Save. I'm also not quite sure what save does. I think in Mendix, when you edit a page, it automatically saves stuff. So, but sometimes it doesn't. Depends how you build the page. So there's often like these weird buttons that are just sort of floating around. So I'm just going to delete that one. I hope I didn't break anything. So yeah, these are the two pages side by side. You can see this is a little. I think this is a lot clearer. It's a little more in line to more user-friendly. So those are all the UX hacks. I think I'm still on time. Oh, I'm way in front of time, which is good. It means we can watch a movie. I got this fun little. I do need sound for this one, Jan. I hope you guys are enjoying the presentation. So far, you guys learned some new interesting stuff.
So, Jason, your sound was turned on.
Oh, my sound is turned on. Alright, look, here we go. It's good UX. Blame it on UX.
That'll be €100.
Okay. I'm going to blow up all the speakers here.
Art director, creative leader, idea astronaut. The classification of UX designers is constantly evolving. This example might seem like a new and trendy breed, but this is in fact an old-school UX designer. Notice how the wallpaper on his Macintosh says Comic Sans, but the artwork itself is not composed of that particular font. This is considered funny by his peers. This specimen has unfortunately fallen into a state commonly known as pixel paranoia, as he is contemplating whether this button should be here, or there, or there. This kind of aesthetic compulsory behavior that separates him from the UX architect. This peculiar being spends most of his time reading reports, which enables him to answer any question with a reference to a theoretical study. An unfortunate side effect of this obsession is the lack of certain other skill sets. A crucial moment in the lifespan of the UX designer is the usability test. This is where all the hard work can be rendered useless in a matter of seconds. One wrong move from the user, and it's back to the drawing board. Disaster has struck. This designer will have to face a demoralizing process of coming up with a better solution. Devastating. If you spot a UX designer interacting with common human beings, it is likely you are witnessing a ritual known as a workshop. The workshop consists of a small separated pack, writing as much as possible on sticky pieces of paper. This is often followed by the pack decorating the walls of their current habitat with these vibrant colours. Why they display this sort of behaviour, no one knows. These rituals often include awkwardly choreographed exercises assumed to enhance creativity amongst the tiny pack. The result is a quite extraordinary display of human behaviour. Only time will tell how many viable ideas, or maybe yet another creative job title, will come out of this act.
Okay, that was a fun movie. Okay, back to the presentation. Yeah, that was the end of our presentation. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I've got some takeaways for you guys to help you remember. UX design is not adding colors after an application has been built. UX design is creating something that solves the user's problem. And always ask yourself when building a page, what is the user trying to achieve? And can we increase usability by reducing noise? If anyone wants to contact me or see some of my work, you can always find me at mxux.nl. mxux.nl. It's a pretty good domain name. I just registered a couple of weeks ago, especially for you guys. So yeah, that's the end of my presentation. Do you guys have any questions? No questions? This is going to be really easy for me. Oh, one question.
How do you keep a balance between the technology mandates that puts you in certain, well, gives you certain freedom but also sets certain boundaries, and your ideal user experience, your ideal design that you create?
Yeah, so the question was, how do we create a balance between the constraints of Mendix and pretty much your ideas? I think when creating an interface, you sort of have to keep into account what Mendix does well, and then ask yourself, is it worth trying to rebuild Mendix to get a better user experience? In some cases it is. In other cases you just want to get that product out of the door quickly. We only try to really rebuild one element per app, so it's always a case of not doing everything and trying to find that balance. Yeah, a lot of it is CSS work, sauce work, and with that you can achieve quite a lot, and for everything else I usually go to the forums and start complaining. So, yeah, there's nothing really you can do, I think, until if it's a Mendix thing, you can't create better user experience, or you have to create a widget. So yeah, I hope that answers your question a bit. Yeah, thumbs up, that's cool. Any other questions? Willem has a question.
Okay, I might have a question then. So if I look at your all the stages of the UX design. So
I'm gonna go back to this slide for you.
Somewhere
in the middle.
Right?
It's the one with the process, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the one where you had all 5 of them.
Yeah.
Underneath each other.
This one.
Shift F5.
Yeah, this one.
This one, yeah.
Yeah. So how does this work best in the quick Mendix projects where things are a little bit more agile than you would wish, and actually a lot of the ideation is actually during the building, and how do you deal with that dynamic?
So the question is, how do we do rapid prototyping, I guess, with UX and Mendix and sort of combine that all together? So yeah, a couple of weeks ago we did a Seeing is Believing, a SIP or a proof of concept, where we built an application in 3 days. For that, I worked 1 day ahead. So 1 day before the rest of the team came, I did a workshop and trying to figure out what is the best flow process. And then I can build all the screens in Mendix and then just not have them hooked up. And then the other 2 Mendix developers came and also helped build the application out. I had some building blocks that I already created for them, and then they could use those building blocks to finish off on the last day. So that's how we do it, but I think you have to really find your own vibe, try to figure out what process works for you as best. But yeah, in my experience, try to get the design team to work 1 day ahead or 1 sprint ahead or 1 working section ahead, so that they can sort of solve problems before you create it, and then you might have to rebuild something which is doable in Mendix, but sometimes it can be a bit of a waste of resources. Does that answer your question?
Perfectly.
Perfectly.
Thank
awesome.
you.
There's another question in the back.
Yeah, about the remote controls. If you beforehand, let's say you're the UX designer, right, and you come up with a better version of the remote control way before building even starts, so you would take the final version of the remote controller as your starting point. I can imagine that with the other remote controller, if there is an issue with the television, the nephew can come in and say, oh, okay, I can easily help you because I have all these options available to me to help you out. So I can imagine that if you limit the possibilities of the application by starting off with the most right controller, you need a separate controller to actually help out in case something's wrong with the television, because this one won't help you solve the problem. This one helps you use the television in the moment.
So the question was pretty much, what happens if you do want to do these things in the remote control?
No, I mean, my question actually is, would there be is there actually a better one regarding these remote controllers?
A better remote control?
Yeah, because I'm challenging your argument by saying we need both.
Oh, you need both?
To actually solve the issues a TV might have, and the other to use them.
Yeah, so the question is, you need both remote controls. You want the freedom of being able to change everything, but you want the ease of use for this one.
Yes.
So what you often see in applications is that there are different users with different user roles. Someone that works in a factory that's just using the machine, they might see this one, whereas an admin, they'll see this one. But you don't want admins to be using this one because they won't be able to do their job, but you don't want people on the working floor to be using this one because then it will confuse them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, answer your question, good? What you also see, like with the remote control, my brother has a new TV and he can flip his one around. So like on the back it has a keyboard or something, and then on the top it has this one. So just keeping it in the remote control vibe. You had a question here in front, yeah?
Yeah, do you have any sources for inspiration for UX?
Sources
or are
for...
there just some basic principles you use every time, or do you go to pages like Dribble or?
Yeah, so the question is, are there any resources, external resources that I use? Yeah, there's a lot of them. They're really good for procrastinating and not doing work efficiently. So I try not to use them too much, because my boss is here somewhere and he shouldn't know about it. No, there's a application, it's a Chrome widget called Muesli. When you open a new tab, you can see like all the UX news. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there, just like new insights or new ways people have solved certain problems. Dribble was really good for seeing current trends, but Dribble's really like visually appealing. So a lot of the stuff they make, they don't really solve problems, but they do look really good. So that's, yeah, that other slide that we had down here. Other inspiration is Medium. Medium has some really good articles about UX best practices and what more in-depth stories. The one I was written to you guys about the people that went to Africa, that's an article that came from Medium originally, or that's where I saw it. There's UX Planet, I think it's like a collaboration thing within Medium. So if you register with that, you get some cool emails. So that, and then you have Quora. I'm not sure if you guys know Quora. Quora? Q-U-O-R-A. Quora. That's really good for you can like ask any question and someone expert in whatever field you're asking will come and say, okay, this is the best solution. Sometimes I have random questions.
And you post on Medium as well.
I post on Medium as well. So I always try to spam everyone with my articles and get them to do good UX. So yeah, there's a lot of resources. Yeah, it's sort of depending what you want to find. The best way to get best resources is to just figure out who's good at UX and bug him and say, can you send me some resources? Or yeah, just yeah, that kind of stuff, I think.
Okay, maybe good to post it on the Meetup website.
Yeah, I can post some stuff in there, some articles, some things to read if you guys are interested. So. Yeah, awesome. Okay, any more questions? Not yet. Okay, shall we get a round of beers? Oh, Willem has one more question.
I have one then. So I'm actually starting my new project tomorrow as a business consultant. So what should I do first then?
First you should figure out what you're trying to solve.
How do I do that?
Talk to the end users. So what we usually do is, okay, so this question was, he's starting a new project tomorrow, and it's your first day at the job, and he needs to figure out what is the problem that he's trying to solve, or what is the UX that he's made. He's been hired as a UX designer and he needs to solve this problem. So my first day at any client is a workshop. With the workshop, I try to figure out some user stories and try to figure out, does the business developer have the same goals as the end user? do they match? Can we put these people together and so that the product owner understands the actual goals of the end user, and once they meet up, there's like some halfway point where they both have different, they're both stakeholders and they both have different goals. Somewhere in between they'll meet up, and then they sort of appreciate the value that they give each other, which is always really cool to see, and then from that point you get this sort of collaboration where the end user's like, oh, I really want this, and then the product owner says, oh, I also need this, and then they figure out a way to sort of create that solution together. And then it's pretty much your goal to just create some wireframes and make sure the whole flow makes sense, and make sure they don't do any of the stuff I just told you with lots of drop downs and other crazy UI implementations. You also had a question.
Yeah, so you mentioned talking with end users, but also I'm missing the usability testing part, so basically testing in general your product. I didn't see that as well, but is that something that you do normally in your project, whether it's a short one or a bigger MVP project? If so, how do you do that normally? Do you have any tips or something like that? Or if you have a shorter, like a POC, how would you approach that one? Because in our case, as UX consultancy, it's really hard to, integrate some kind of usability testing or talking with the end user because they actually already want the idea and the prototype in 4 weeks' time.
Yeah, so the question is, talk to end users, how can we incorporate their input easily? And then the difference between a long period of time and a proof of concept?
Yeah, it's basically
Okay, cool. Yeah, so usually with me, if I'm doing a proof of concept, we have the whole workshop the day before. So I already sort of understand the user and sort of get a bond with the user and sort of talk to them and say, I'm going to be here tomorrow and the day after. Do you mind if we have a session in the morning, at lunchtime, and in the evening? And then you can sketch out wireframes real quick and get that validation. So validation is really important. It's more about I sort of see it as the agile process, not the UX process, but with UX you can do it different ways, you can do UX wonderful. But it's more the agile process of create something, you get the feedback, you tweak that thing, and then go around in circles. So proof of concept, I always make appointments with the end user, and in the morning show them a demo, validate it, is this the right way, we need to tweak it, then in the afternoon, and then in the evening. So then you have 3 points. If you have a proof of concept of 3 days, then you have at least 9 decent moments to talk to the end user. If the processes are longer, a little bit longer, we do it in the sprint. So depending on your sprint, try to get it at the beginning of your sprint and the end of the sprint. And I always work on site, so I can always talk to the product owner. And the product owner is usually pretty good. They usually know like what the user's needs and wants are, so they can stand in for the user until you can actually talk to the user. So, does that answer your question? A little bit.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, how do you find your end users?
How do I find my end users? Most applications that we make are internal. So a lot of them are, I don't know, for example, some company needs a planning application, and then we just say, okay, what are you planning? The people that are working in the factory, can you have at least 2 factory workers during and then that will be like the main factory people I talk to, and then I make an appointment with them and say, yeah, can I talk to you throughout the day or whatever. So I don't find them, the company that I work with finds those end users. If you're making an application, say, what we have the gemeentehuis, then you're working with externals, and then it's a lot more difficult to find end users. But even then, the people that work there usually have contacts with someone that can be representative of those end users. So I'll sort of try to find it within the company you're working for. Cool. Any more questions? Oh, there's even more questions. More and more questions every time I ask. Okay.
Hi, I'm Kevin. When you prototype, do you sketch with hand, or do you use Sketch, or? Okay.
What tools do I use when prototyping? Is that the? Yeah, it sort of really depends. I always have my little piece of paper next to me. I always sketch out ideas before drawing them. At the moment I'm using Adobe XD, which, I mean, it works, it's not great, but it gets the job done. I don't really think it matters what tool you use, as long as you're comfortable using that tool. It's about creating rapid iterations, creating ideas, being able to experiment with ideas as quickly as possible, because the quicker you can do it, the less risks you're taking, because you can sort of go through a whole bunch of ideas, like we did with the session, trying to figure out ideas. Yeah, so use whatever tool you feel comfortable with. I don't think there's a tool that's really better than any other tool. I think it is important to have an idea of the whole flow. So for that I use draw.io, which is free, and you can share it quite easily with other people. But for the mock-ups and prototypes, yeah, I think most tools nowadays, if that's Sketch, someone Flinto, Adobe XD, they're all pretty good. I'm going to ask this question first, Jan.
So how much of a UXer should you be as a builder, and how much of a builder should you be as a UXer?
That question, how much of a builder should you be if you're UXing, and how much of a UXer should you be if you're building? Yeah, about half-half, I think, I don't know. I think the more you understand of Mendix, the easier it is for you to create wireframes that builders can build. And I think the other way around, that if you're a builder and the more you understand of UX, the better the pages will be that you are building. The more is better, I guess. But yeah, you only have a certain amount of time, and that's why we have job roles as UX designers or business developers. And whenever I talk to people, then I hope that they create better screens the next day. So slowly you learn from each other.
Yeah, my question was similar. Do you go into Mendix and build screens and prototypes, or do you leave that?
Yeah, so Jan's question is, do I open Mendix? Do I have Mendix running? Yes, I do have Mendix running. Most of the stuff that I use is pretty much just containers and classes within Mendix. All the business logic behind it, that's what all the talented developers do. And I know how to click around and open a snippet, change some classes. My tools are mostly Gulp. I know Jelte was walking around here somewhere over there. He made a really good Gulp SAS compiler, which that's pretty much my workflow, is opening that, opening Mendix, and opening Atom, which is my CSS, or was it my type, where I type in. There's a fancy name for it. My editor, type editor?
IDE.
Okay. Any other questions?
After drinks.
Okay. Last question, and then we're going to get some drinks, and then you guys can ask me some more questions. Okay, go.
What do you do if you cannot get, for whatever reason, to the end user, if you cannot talk to them? What do you do?
Yeah, the question is, what happens if I can't speak to the end user? Then you just hope that the product owner knows what he's talking about, and then you just make assumptions. If you're a good user experience designer, you can go a long way with assumptions. They say assumptions are really bad to make, but I don't know, they call it an educated guess. Most UX designers are educated in UX design, so their guesses are all educated guesses. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, let's get some drinks.